The peaceful human colony sat at the edge of the galaxy, a quiet haven in the vastness of space. The colony's buildings were sleek and futuristic, with towering structures shimmering under the light of a distant sun. Fields of green stretched out in all directions, dotted with people working, laughing, and living their everyday lives. It was a place where humanity thrived, far away from the conflicts of the galaxy. The camera slowly zoomed in on the scene, humans going about their day, a tranquil scene that hinted at a bright future. But the peace would not last. Without warning, the sky above the colony shifted. Dark clouds rolled in, as if the heavens themselves were angry. At first, it seemed like a strange storm, but then the first sign of the impending terror appeared. Ships, dark, menacing shapes, suddenly materialized in the sky. They moved with terrifying speed, almost as if they were shadows. Alien pirate ships, vast and powerful, decloaked from thin air. They came from nowhere, appearing all at once. The colony had no warning, no time to react. The peaceful day was shattered in an instant. A loud, piercing siren echoed through the colony, signaling the danger. People froze, panic spreading faster than the sound of the alarm. Children cried out in fear as the sky above them darkened, overshadowed by the massive pirate ships. The pirate ships, sleek and deadly, hovered ominously, their weapons primed and ready to strike. They had come for one thing: destruction. Before the humans could even gather their wits, the first salvo of fire ripped through the colony's defense systems. Explosions erupted across the landscape, sending debris flying and setting buildings ablaze. The pirates' weapons were far superior, their energy blasts ripping apart shields and walls with ease. The humans, caught off guard, scrambled to mount a defense, but they were too late. The pirate ships cloaked themselves again, disappearing into the sky, making it nearly impossible for the humans to retaliate. Their advanced technology allowed them to move undetected, their cloaking devices rendering them invisible to the human military. Inside the command center, Commander Leon stood with his team, eyes wide in disbelief. He had heard stories of pirate raids, of the fearsome reputation these space raiders had earned across the galaxy, but he never thought they would target his colony. He never thought it would happen to him. As the explosions rocked the building, Leon's voice broke through the chaos, issuing orders to try and launch a counterattack. But even as he spoke, the colony's systems flickered and went dark. Their defense grid was gone. The pirates were too powerful, too prepared. The camera focused on Leon as he raced toward the control room. His heart pounded in his chest, and his breath came in short gasps. The situation was dire, and his instincts told him it was only going to get worse. As he entered the control room, a massive explosion shook the walls, and the lights flickered again. A violent tremor shook the building, knocking Leon off his feet. The ceiling above him caved in, and a fiery blast consumed the command center. The force of the explosion sent Leon flying across the room, slamming into the ground hard. Dust and debris clouded the air as everything went silent. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Leon's ears rang with a high-pitched tone, his vision blurry. He struggled to push himself up, ignoring the pain that shot through his body. The dust began to settle, and as he looked around, the devastation became clear. The command center was obliterated. His team, his comrades, lay scattered across the room. But there was something more painful than the wreckage around him. His best friend, Bonner, was among the fallen. Bonner had been by his side for years. They had fought together, survived together, and now Bonner was gone. His lifeless eyes stared up at Leon, as if asking why it had to end like this. Leon's breath caught in his throat, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. The loss was too much to bear. His friend, his brother in arms, was gone, and the weight of that loss hit him like a ton of bricks. He wanted to scream, to shout, to do something, anything, but in the back of his mind, he knew there was no time for mourning. Bonner wouldn't want him to give up now. His final words, whispered weakly as he died in Leon's arms, were the only thing that kept Leon grounded. Fight back. Don't let them win. As the memory of Bonner's words echoed in his mind, Leon's grief began to turn into something else. It was no longer just sorrow. It was rage. He couldn't let his friend's death be in vain. The pirates had taken so much from them already, but they hadn't taken everything. Not yet. He couldn't stand idly by while the rest of his people were slaughtered. He would avenge them. He would fight. In the distance, the pirate ships continued their attack, relentless and cruel. The remaining soldiers scrambled to evacuate civilians and regroup for a counterattack, but it was clear they were outmatched. The pirates' technology was far beyond anything the humans had, and their strikes were precise and brutal. The humans didn't stand a chance, not with the pirates' cloaking technology, their eye-driven war machines, and their advanced weaponry. But Leon wasn't one to give up easily. With his heart pounding in his chest, he stood tall, his eyes now filled with fire. He turned to his remaining crew, his voice cutting through the panic. "We can't just sit here and wait to die. We're going to fight back, every last one of us." His words were sharp, confident, and filled with a burning resolve. The crew, though shaken by the loss of their comrades, rallied around Leon. There was no time for fear, no time for doubt. They had to fight back, no matter the odds. Leon led them to the makeshift command center that had been set up in the ruins, where they began to plan their next move. They knew they had to act fast. The pirates had taken the high ground, and if they didn't do something soon, the entire colony would be lost. As the crew gathered around a holographic map of the colony, Leon's thoughts turned to Bonner once again. His friend's death wasn't the end. It was the spark that would ignite a fire within him. The pirates had made a terrible mistake by attacking Earth. They had underestimated humanity's will to survive. Now, they would pay the price. Leon and his crew would make sure of that. The first 6 minutes of this story set the stage for an epic battle. They introduced the threat of the alien pirates, the devastation they cause, and the emotional core of the story, Leon's personal loss and the burning desire to avenge his fallen comrades. The audience is immediately hooked by the action, the suspense, and the emotional stakes. With the pirate threat looming large, they'll be left on the edge of their seats, eager to see how the humans fight back against impossible odds. The colony was in ruins. What had once been a thriving, peaceful settlement was now a charred, smoldering wreck. As the dust settled, Commander Leon and his remaining crew surveyed the devastation. Buildings lay in ruins, and the once beautiful landscape was now scarred with craters. The remnants of humanity's defenses were scattered, and smoke rose from the wreckage of their fallen soldiers. The pain of losing so many weighed heavily on Leon's heart, but there was no time for grief. He had a mission: to strike back, to avenge the fallen, and to protect the survivors. Standing amidst the chaos, Leon's thoughts were interrupted by a cold, mechanical voice echoing from the communications terminal. It was a message from the pirate leader, Varkar, a ruthless alien who had orchestrated the attack. His face appeared on the screen, his expression twisted with arrogance. "Humans," Varkar sneered. "You were foolish to think you could survive. You are weak, insignificant, and your defenses are nothing compared to our might. Your world will fall, just like all the others. Prepare for your extinction." The transmission ended with the flick of Varkar's hand, his mocking laughter lingering in the air. Leon clenched his fists, fury burning in his chest. This was more than just a raid. It was an assault on humanity's very existence. Varkar had underestimated them, and Leon would make sure he paid for it. With the pirate leader's taunt still echoing in their ears, the crew gathered in the command center, their faces grim. The pirates had proven their superiority in battle, and their cloaking devices had rendered humanity's weapons almost useless. But Leon wasn't ready to accept defeat. "We need something better," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We need a weapon that can break their cloaking. We need something that can bring their ships out of the shadows. The crew worked together, their minds focused on the task at hand. They knew they had to act fast. The pirates weren't going to give them a second chance. As they searched through the colony's archives, one of the engineers stumbled upon a hidden gem, an experimental energy cannon, long forgotten in the records of the colony's history. It had never been fully tested, but its specifications suggested it could pierce the pirates' cloaking devices and inflict devastating damage on their ships. "We need to repair it and activate it," Leon commanded. The crew set to work, their hands moving swiftly to bring the cannon back online. The energy cannon was the only hope they had left. It was their chance to turn the tide, to level the playing field against the technologically superior pirates. But it wasn't going to be easy. The weapon was damaged, and the colony's resources were limited. Still, they had no choice. The pirates were regrouping, and soon they would strike again. If the cannon didn't work, the humans would be defenseless. As the crew labored tirelessly, Leon stood at the edge of the room, his eyes distant. The image of Bonner's lifeless body haunted him. He could still hear his friend's final words, "Fight back. Don't let them win." Leon's chest tightened with the weight of those words. Bonner had been more than just a comrade. He had been a brother, a man who had fought beside him through countless battles. And now he was gone. Leon couldn't allow his death to be in vain. He would honor Bonner's memory by leading the charge, by ensuring that humanity's will to survive would never be broken. Flashbacks of the fallen soldiers played in Leon's mind. Faces of men and women who had fought bravely, only to be cut down by the alien pirates. Each face, each death, fueled his resolve. He could almost hear their voices, urging him to keep fighting, to never give up. Leon's eyes hardened with determination. The pirates had taken so much from them, but they hadn't taken everything. Humanity was still alive, still capable of fighting back. The tension in the command center grew as the crew worked on the energy cannon. It felt like every second stretched into an eternity. The pirates were still out there, waiting, watching from the shadows. The crew knew they didn't have much time. Doubt began to creep in. Could they really pull this off? Could they defeat an enemy that was so much stronger than them? One of the crew members, a young soldier named Sarah, spoke up, her voice trembling. "Commander, do you really think this will work? What if the cannon doesn't fire? What if we're walking right into another trap?" Leon turned to her, his gaze steady. "I know the odds are against us," he said. "I know we're not ready, but we can't afford to fail. If we don't fight back, we're finished. This is our one chance to show the pirates that humanity is not to be underestimated. We're not weak. We're not insignificant. We're survivors." His words resonated with the crew, reminding them of what they were fighting for. They weren't just fighting for revenge. They were fighting for their future, for their families, for the chance to rebuild their home. With Leon's leadership, the crew found new strength, and they redoubled their efforts to get the cannon operational. The clock was ticking. The pirates were on the move again, and the crew knew their time was running out. The energy cannon hummed to life, its systems coming online one by one. The crew held their breath as the final test was performed. The cannon powered up, and a surge of energy crackled through the air. It worked. The weapon was ready. As Leon stood in the command center, he felt a surge of hope. This was it. The humans had a fighting chance. They had their weapon, their resolve, and their will to survive. The pirates had underestimated them once, but they wouldn't make that mistake again. "We're ready," Leon said, his voice calm but filled with purpose. "Prepare the fleet. We're going after them." The crew gathered their weapons and prepared for the battle ahead. The pirates had no idea what was coming. The humans were no longer the underdogs. They had the weapon, and they had the will to fight. Now they would take the fight to the pirates and show them that humanity would never back down. The final battle for survival was about to begin. The human fleet was ready. The energy cannon was fully operational, and Leon's crew was prepared to take the fight to the pirates. As they launched their counterattack, the tension was palpable. The crew knew this was their last shot. There would be no retreat, no second chances. They had to win, not just for themselves, but for the future of humanity. The battle began with a surge of adrenaline. Leon's ship led the charge, cutting through space at full speed. The rest of the fleet followed, each ship carrying the same burning desire to defeat the alien pirates. The humans had never faced an enemy like this before: advanced cloaking technology, powerful weapons, and overwhelming numbers. But they had something the pirates didn't: the element of surprise. As the fleet approached the pirate armada, the humans activated their cloaking devices, hoping to catch the pirates off guard. But the pirates were no strangers to deception, and their own cloaking technology quickly neutralized the humans' attempts at stealth. The sky erupted with laser beams and plasma blasts as the first shots were fired. The pirates, now aware of the humans' presence, responded with ferocity, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts from their advanced warships. The battle had begun. Leon's heart raced as he watched the chaos unfold around him. The human ships darted in and out of the line of fire, using cunning maneuvers to dodge the pirates' deadly attacks. Despite being outclassed technologically, the humans' agility and quick thinking allowed them to land several successful hits. Each blast from their experimental weapon sent shockwaves through the pirate ships, causing massive damage. But the pirates were relentless, and their retaliatory fire was devastating. As the battle raged on, Leon saw flashes of light that could only mean one thing: the pirates were deploying their robots. These massive, humanoid machines dropped from the pirate ships like meteors, each one bristling with weapons designed to tear through human defenses. The robots landed with a thunderous crash, and the humans were forced into close-quarters combat. Fighters from both sides engaged in deadly dogfights, their ships weaving and dodging through a maelstrom of laser beams and exploding debris. Leon gritted his teeth as the battle grew more intense. The humans had gained some ground, but now the pirates were showing their true power. The robots were faster, stronger, and better equipped than the human fighters, and they were quickly turning the tide of battle. Human ships were being destroyed at an alarming rate, and Leon's heart sank as he watched one of his crew members, Surgeon Harris, get hit by a blast from one of the robots. The explosion ripped through the ship, and Harris was gone. The loss was devastating. Harris had been with them from the beginning, a loyal and fearless soldier who had fought side by side with Leon. Now he was gone, and the crew was down another man. Leon's fist slammed against the control panel in frustration. They couldn't afford to lose anyone else. This wasn't just about winning anymore, it was about survival. "Commander," shouted one of the crew members, a young officer named Jansen, "we've got incoming. The robots are surrounding us." Leon's mind raced as the battle grew even more chaotic. The pirates had superior firepower, but the humans had the one advantage they could still use: their resourcefulness. Leon ordered the fleet to break formation and scatter, hoping to throw off the pirates' targeting systems. It was a risky move, but it was their only chance. The human ships split apart, weaving through the asteroid field and dodging incoming fire. For a moment, the pirates seemed confused, unsure of which ship to target. But it wasn't enough. The pirates' robots quickly adapted, moving with terrifying precision and locking onto the human ships. The human fighters tried to engage, but the robots' speed and strength overwhelmed them. Leon watched in horror as another ship exploded, this time with Captain Rodriguez and his crew on board. The pirate robots were relentless, cutting through the human defenses like a hot knife through butter. The human fleet was being slowly crushed under the weight of the pirate assault. Desperation began to set in. Leon's mind raced. What else did they have? How could they turn the tide? In that moment, Leon remembered something from the archives, a tactic used by the early human military during their first space wars. It was a risky maneuver, one that required perfect timing and teamwork, but it was their only chance. Listen up. Liam's voice came through the comms, cutting through the chaos. "I need all ships to fall back to the asteroid cluster. We're going to use the terrain to our advantage. We'll engage the pirates head-on, but only when we're in position. Stay tight, and wait for my signal." The crew responded without hesitation. They trusted Leon. They had to. With the robots closing in, the humans fell back into the asteroid cluster, using the rocks and debris as cover. It was a dangerous maneuver. If the pirates caught on, they could easily destroy the fleet from a distance. But it was their best shot at surviving. As the pirates approached, the humans took their positions, holding their breath. The battle had reached its peak, and now, the final strike was coming. Leon's heart pounded in his chest as he counted down the seconds. The pirates were just moments away from locking onto their ships, and it was now or never. "Now!" Leon shouted. The human fleet launched forward, charging at the pirates with everything they had. The experimental weapon fired once more, sending a massive blast that tore through one of the pirate ships. The pirates were taken by surprise as the human fighters emerged from their cover, launching a coordinated attack. The robots were still relentless, but they were now facing human fighters who knew how to use their environment to their advantage. Leon's ship soared through the chaos, dodging incoming fire and targeting the robots with precision. His crew fought with everything they had left, pushing through the enemy forces in a final push for victory. But the pirates weren't done yet. Just as it seemed the humans were gaining the upper hand, the pirate flagship appeared. Massive and heavily armored, it fired a devastating blast that ripped through the human lines, sending ships spiraling into the void. Leon's blood ran cold. This was the final boss. The battle wasn't over yet. The human fleet, battered and bruised, was still fighting, but now they had a new resolve. They had suffered losses, but they had also proven that they could stand up to the pirates. They weren't done yet. The final phase of the battle was about to begin. The tension in the air was palpable. The pirate leader, Varkar, had made his move. After suffering devastating losses at the hands of the humans, he issued a challenge that would decide the fate of humanity. One-on-one combat. Varkar, towering and ruthless, wanted to settle this the old way. Leon, the commander of the human fleet, was stunned at first, unsure of what to make of this sudden challenge. He knew it was a trap. Pirates were known for their dishonesty and underhanded tactics, and a leader like Varkar wouldn't risk everything for something as simple as honor. But there was no escaping the fact that this was their only chance. Varkar was powerful, his fleet was massive, and the humans were barely holding on. The pirate leader knew that if he could defeat Leon, it would break the spirit of the humans, and they would crumble without further resistance. Leon couldn't afford to back down. If they survived, this challenge might be their one shot at ending the pirate threat once and for all. Leon's mind was torn. Every fiber of his being told him to refuse the challenge, to focus on rallying the fleet and continuing the fight as a unit. But deep down, he knew the truth. This wasn't just about victory. This was about proving humanity's strength. They had fought against impossible odds, and this was their final test. He couldn't let his people down. The moment Leon accepted the challenge, the tension among the crew became even more intense. His decision sent ripples of concern through the ship. His most trusted fighters, including Sergeant Miller and Lieutenant Jane, questioned his choice. They had all seen the destruction Varkar and his pirates had caused. They had watched their friends and comrades fall, their ships destroyed, and now Leon was walking right into the heart of the storm. "Commander, you don't have to do this," Sergeant Miller said, his voice filled with worry. "This is a trap. We can keep fighting. We can win this together." But Leon, standing tall, looked each of them in the eye. "We've already lost so much. This isn't just about winning anymore. This is about standing our ground, about showing them that no matter how strong they are, they can't break us. Humanity will survive. I will survive." His words were like fire, igniting a spark of resolve in the crew. They all knew the risks, but they also knew that Leon's strength, both as a leader and as a symbol of humanity's will to survive, was what had kept them going. He was their last hope. The next few days were a blur of preparation. In the war room, Leon and his officers pored over strategy and tactics. They knew that to even have a chance against Varkar, they would need to be prepared, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Leon worked with his best fighters, training in the most advanced combat techniques, honing their skills to perfection. Every movement was precise, every strike calculated. The stakes of the fight were far too high for anything less than absolute dedication. But despite the rigorous training, Leon couldn't shake the weight of the task ahead. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of those he had lost. Bonner, Harris, Rodriguez. The memories haunted him, and the emotional toll weighed heavily on his shoulders. They had all given their lives so that humanity could stand a chance against the pirates, and now he was about to risk his life in a one-on-one duel. As the day of the duel approached, Leon found himself alone in his quarters late one night. He stood before a small holographic projection of the faces of the fallen. It was a reminder of the cost of this war. The war had taken so much from him, from all of them. It wasn't just the physical losses, but the emotional toll that came with every death. And yet there was a fire inside him. He couldn't quit. He couldn't let the sacrifices of his crew members be in vain. The door to his quarters opened, and Lieutenant Jane entered. She had always been by his side, a steady presence amidst the chaos. Her face was filled with concern, but she didn't say anything at first. She simply sat next to him, her gaze fixed on the holograms. "I know it's hard, Leon," she said softly, her voice low. "But you're not alone in this. We're all with you. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself." He turned to look at her, his expression hard but grateful. "I know, but this is my responsibility. If I don't face him, I'm afraid I'll never be able to look my crew in the eye again. The pirates need to know that we will never surrender, that we will never bow to them." Jane nodded, her eyes filled with a mix of admiration and sadness. "And we'll be right there with you, no matter what happens." Leon smiled, but it was a small, weary smile. "Thank you, Jane. I can't promise I'll come back. But I will fight, and I'll make sure that humanity's story is told. That we're not just some footnote in the galaxy's history. We'll be remembered." As the hours ticked down, the crew continued to train, the ship buzzing with nervous energy. The final preparations were made, and the entire fleet stood ready. Though Leon knew this battle would be different, the stakes were personal now. Varkar had made this a challenge to the death, and Leon couldn't afford to hesitate. He had to fight with everything he had. On the eve of the duel, Leon stood on the deck of the ship, gazing out into the cold vastness of space. The stars seemed distant, almost indifferent, to the war unfolding below. He thought of Bonner, of all the lives that had been lost, and the friends who had believed in him. As the weight of the situation settled on him, he felt the flicker of a burning determination. This was their fight, and Leon wasn't going to let them down. He would face Varkar, no matter the cost. Humanity's survival depended on it. The next morning, Leon boarded the shuttle that would take him to the battlefield. His crew watched in silence as the shuttle disappeared into the darkness of space. The countdown to the duel had begun. In the control room, Jane and the others waited anxiously. It wasn't just a battle for the future of humanity. It was a battle for the soul of every human who had ever fought for something greater than themselves. As the shuttle approached the pirate flagship, the crew knew there was no turning back. The future of humanity would be decided by the outcome of this fight, and they could only hope that Leon, the last hope for humanity's survival, would emerge victorious. The time had come. Leon stood at the helm of his ship, his pulse racing as he stared down the enemy flagship looming ahead in the cold, silent void of space. The duel with Varkar, the ruthless pirate leader, was about to begin. This wasn't just any fight. It was the moment that would decide the fate of humanity, the fate of everything they had fought for. Leon knew this would be unlike anything he had ever faced before. Varkar, the pirate leader, was a legendary warrior and a master strategist. His skills in battle were unmatched. Leon had seen the destruction Varkar and his fleet had caused. The pirate leader's ruthless methods had broken many, but Leon was determined that humanity would not bend. The stakes were high, and the odds were stacked against them. But Leon wasn't about to back down. This was his moment. This was humanity's moment. The battle began with a deafening roar as the two ships clashed in a flash of bright laser fire. Varkar's ship, equipped with advanced weaponry and superior technology, immediately launched a barrage of deadly missiles, targeting Leon's ship with precision. The pirate fleet, waiting in the distance, hovered like vultures, ready to strike at any sign of weakness. But Leon wasn't intimidated. He knew this battle was about more than just technology. It was about his will to fight, about humanity's will to survive. As the two ships danced through the cold, unforgiving expanse of space, Leon's ship swerved and dodged, narrowly avoiding missile after missile. The pirates' lasers cracked the void, but Leon's human ingenuity came into play. He relied on his knowledge of the pirate fleet's tactics, using the limited resources at his disposal to outsmart them. Human technology, while not as advanced as the pirates' fleet, had been modified with innovative new systems built on creativity, not just raw power. Leon's ship darted in and out of the enemy's range, performing maneuvers that Varkar had never expected. He used their own tactics against them, creating chaos in their formation. Leon's heart raced as he pushed the limits of his ship, making the impossible seem possible. With each move, the pirates grew more frustrated, unsure of how to combat the relentless human onslaught. But Varkar was not one to give up easily. He had been in countless battles and had faced countless foes, but the one thing he didn't expect was the determination and cunning of a human like Leon. As Leon's ship took evasive action, Varkar sent his most advanced weapon, the pirate fleet's eye-controlled combat drones, into the fray. The drones, fast and deadly, launched at Leon's ship with incredible speed, closing in for the kill. For a moment, it seemed as if the tide had turned. The drones swarmed around Leon's ship, their sharp laser beams piercing through the darkness. Leon could feel the heat of the explosions rocking his ship, the metal creaking under the pressure. His hands gripped the controls, sweat pouring down his face as the damage mounted. But he refused to give up. He had lost too much, too many friends, too many comrades. The memory of Bonner's face flashed before him, the words of his fallen crew echoing in his mind. Fight for them. Fight for humanity. Don't let them win. Leon's grip tightened on the controls, his resolve hardening like steel. With a burst of adrenaline, Leon initiated the ship's emergency systems, boosting the engines to full throttle. The ship lurched forward, dodging the drones and breaking through their formation. Varkar's AI drones were highly advanced, but they lacked the flexibility that a human mind possessed. Leon had one advantage that Varkar didn't: his emotions, his humanity. He could think on the fly, adapting in ways that no machine could. In a desperate move, Leon fired the experimental energy cannon they had developed on the way to the duel. The blast from the cannon sent shockwaves through space, lighting up the dark expanse like a star. The powerful beam struck one of the pirate drones, obliterating it in a flash. The remaining drones scattered, thrown off by the unexpected move. But Varkar wasn't done yet. He unleashed his final weapon, a massive, heavily armed personal battle suit. The pirate leader himself would join the fray, ready to fight Leon face to face. Varkar descended from his flagship, his armored form crashing through space like a storm. His massive weapon gleamed in the light of distant stars, and the aura of death around him was almost palpable. Leon's ship was damaged, its hull battered from the earlier fight. He knew he couldn't last much longer, but he also knew that he couldn't let Varkar win. This was it, the final showdown. Leon stood on the deck of his ship, preparing for what was to come. His body was bruised and battered, but his mind was focused. He had a plan. He had to outsmart Varkar one last time. As Varkar's suit charged at him, Leon tapped into his knowledge of the pirate leader's fighting style. He'd studied the pirates for years, watching their tactics and learning their weaknesses. Varkar was powerful, but Leon knew how to exploit the pirates' arrogance. The two clashed in space, their battle suits colliding with a deafening force. Varkar's strength was overwhelming, but Leon used his speed and agility to stay one step ahead. The battle was intense, each blow exchanged with the fury of two warriors fighting for everything. Leon's movements were calculated, his every strike deliberate, using his ship's advanced technology to counter the pirate leader's devastating attacks. For every punch Varkar threw, Leon had a counterattack waiting. Finally, with a swift, desperate move, Leon outsmarted Varkar. As the pirate leader's massive fist swung toward him, Leon sidestepped at the last second, using the pirate's own momentum against him. Varkar's suit collided with a nearby asteroid, and the impact sent him sprawling into the void of space. Leon took a deep breath, the weight of the battle lifting slightly. He knew the fight wasn't over yet, but he had bought himself a precious few seconds. With everything he had left, Leon unleashed the full power of his ship's weapons, sending a final barrage of energy beams straight into Varkar's suit. The pirate leader's armor cracked under the force, and with a final devastating blast, Varkar was destroyed. As the dust settled, Leon stood victorious. The pirate threat was vanquished. Humanity had won, but the cost was high. Leon was badly injured, barely conscious as his crew rushed to tend to him. He had fought with everything he had, but the battle had taken its toll. In the end, it wasn't just Leon's strength that won the day. It was humanity's resilience, its ability to adapt, to fight back, and to never give up, even when faced with impossible odds. The galaxy would remember this battle. The human race had proven that, no matter how dark the times, they would always find a way to survive. The battle was over. The silence of space, once filled with the roar of laser fire and the explosion of missiles, now seemed almost eerie. Varkar, the pirate leader, was dead, and with his fall, the remaining pirates had scattered, their once mighty fleet in disarray. The humans had reclaimed their planet, and the last remnants of the pirate scourge were on the run. It was a victory, but one that came at a great cost. Leon stood at the command center, staring out at the stars. The view was peaceful now, but the memories of the battle still lingered in his mind. The wreckage of the colony, the bodies of fallen comrades, and the faces of those they had lost haunted him. He had won, but it didn't feel like a victory. Not yet. There was too much pain, too much sacrifice. The crew had done it. Against all odds, they had defeated the pirates. They had fought with everything they had, and now the pirates would never threaten their world again. But as Leon watched the peaceful expanse of space, the victory felt hollow. The cost of this battle was too high. He turned away from the window and walked down the corridors of the ship. The familiar hum of the engines was a constant reminder that their journey was far from over. The colony had been saved, but many lives had been lost. The crew had made sacrifices that could never be repaid. The faces of those who had fallen were etched in Leon's mind. Bonner's death weighed heavily on him. The memory of his old friend, their comrade in arms, haunted him. Leon had promised to honor him, to finish the fight, and make sure that the pirates were defeated. He had kept his promise, but at what cost? The crew, who had grown close through the long months of battle, now faced the painful truth. They were forever changed. The survivors were left to carry the burden of those they had lost. The ship had returned to the surface of the planet, and the crew had begun the long process of rebuilding. The damage was extensive, and there was much to do. But as they worked to restore what was lost, Leon found himself unable to focus on the task at hand. The weight of their sacrifices, the faces of the fallen, haunted him. He couldn't move forward without honoring them. Leon walked through the ruined colony, past the charred remains of buildings, the evidence of the violence that had taken place. The sounds of reconstruction were faint, drowned out by the weight of his thoughts. He made his way to the memorial that had been erected in Bonner's honor, a simple stone structure that marked the spot where his friend had fallen. Standing before the memorial, Leon's heart ached. Bonner had been more than just a soldier. He had been a brother. He had fought for humanity, for the future, and now he was gone. But Leon knew that his friend's sacrifice wasn't in vain. The pirates were defeated, the planet was safe, and humanity had survived. The victory, though bittersweet, was a testament to the strength of those who fought. He placed his hand on the stone, feeling the cold surface beneath his fingertips. "I'll make sure your sacrifice wasn't for nothing," he whispered. "We'll rebuild. We'll move forward. For you. For all of them." The crew had done their part, but there was still much to be done. The planet needed to be rebuilt, and humanity's future needed to be secured. The pirate technology they had acquired would help in the rebuilding process, providing the humans with tools and knowledge that would advance their civilization. But even as the new technologies were integrated into the colony, Leon knew that the scars of the battle would remain. Some wounds, like the loss of friends and comrades, would never heal. As the sun set over the planet's horizon, casting a soft golden light over the land, Leon's thoughts turned to the future. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, had made its way home. The pirates were gone. Their reign of terror ended, but humanity's journey was just beginning. The universe was vast, filled with unknowns, and humanity had proven that it could stand against the odds. Leon walked back toward the ship, the sounds of construction, and the voices of his crew growing louder in the distance. They were rebuilding, together. As a united front, they had faced unimaginable challenges, and they had overcome them. Humanity had proven that no matter the obstacle, no matter the enemy, they would stand strong. They would endure. The crew gathered around, their faces tired but resolute. They had survived, and they had won. Together, they had forged something stronger than just a victory. They had forged a bond that would carry them through whatever challenges the future held. As Leon looked at the crew, he felt a sense of pride. These people, his people, had fought with everything they had. They had given everything for the survival of their species. And now, they were ready to rebuild. The future was uncertain, but with their strength, their courage, and their unity, they would face it head-on. Humanity, Leon thought, has always found a way to survive. No matter what the universe throws at us, we will endure. We will rebuild. We will grow. With the pirate threat eliminated and their planet reclaimed, humanity's future was now in their hands. The scars of battle would always remain, but they had proven to the galaxy that humanity could fight, could sacrifice, and could stand up to the greatest challenges. The universe would remember the day that humans fought back against impossible odds and emerged victorious. And in the heart of it all, Leon knew that this was only the beginning. The future was theirs to shape, and no one, not even the darkest forces of the universe, could ever take that away. The power of the human spirit was unstoppable. And with that strength, humanity would rise again, stronger than ever before.